Okay, and good afternoon, folks. Welcome to the Smudcast 933, the Bethesda Never Understood Fallout video. Okay, this is from 20-Sided, or as we knew him as Shamus Young, who passed away years ago, sadly. Great insight into video games and media and gaming in general. So this is going to be a great video for us to just sort of nod along and add our own input, because he focuses on the storytelling aspects of Fallout, and that's great because that's what we care for. That's why we like New Vegas so much. That's why we play the old game still. And most of my friends that play Fallout games don't really play Fallout 4 too much, which is weird. And it's kind of sad, because that's the one that everyone gets mods for. There are all kinds of new updates, and I just don't care. I saw it on sale for like $3 last week, and I was like, nope. Don't care. So
there is a reason why people do not like the updates in these games.
Really, I don't know, because I don't pay attention to any of the news. I don't know the updates at all. So
all of the recent Bethesda updates have tendency to just break every single mod that worked. So if people had like a mod pack with 200 to 300 mods, good luck finding what is causing the problem now.
That reminds me of that crazy huge mod. Was it called London or whatever?
Well, there is the London mod of, I think which one is it? Fallout 4, I believe?
Yeah, it is Fallout 4. Yeah. And they were complaining. They were like, I don't know if they're going to fix this thing or make an update for it, because they had a new release, I think, in December or November or whatever it was. And they were like, nope, we don't care anymore. It's like, okay. Jeez.
Typical.
Just destroyed the entire modding community. Yeah, no, with New Vegas, I always keep going back. I always keep playing. There's always some new update to a mod to make it better. And it's stable, so I'm happy with it. And I've never bothered reinstalling 4 for whatever reason. So, yeah, it just doesn't interest me. So, this video came out back in 2020 of January. It has over 2 million views. And it was a great video when I watched it. I'm sure it'll be just as good. But we have lots to say on the topic, even if Shamus only focuses on story elements. That's okay. All right, here we get going.
Bethesda never understood Fallout. Yes, I know this is a really popular franchise and I'm risking furious nerd wrath by criticizing it, but I used up all my positivity in the last video. If you want to hear me love a game, you could always just go back and watch that one again. See, the problem with Bethesda's Fallout is that, you know what, hang on. I think we need to do a little refresher on this particular IP. I know a lot of people already know this stuff, but if we don't cover it now, then the discussion will get hopelessly sidetracked in the comments. So to avoid confusion, let's talk about how this crazy franchise got started. In 1997, developer Interplay releases Fallout, a post-nuclear role-playing game. It's an open-world turn-based role-playing video game. The game is played on a hex grid with an isometric view. At this point, things take a turn. See, some of the Interplay developers leave and start their own studio called Troika. Meanwhile, the company Interplay is actually 2 different things. There's Interplay the publisher and Interplay the developer. This is confusing, but luckily the studio part is rebranded Black Isle, and the remaining team goes on to make Fallout 2 in 1998. Then the IP is handed off to a couple of other studios to make combat-focused spin-off games. These games are like the Star Wars Holiday Special. They're weird, they're out of print, hard to find, and most fans are happy to pretend they don't exist.
I'll have to say, yeah, I tried the Brotherhood one. I was like, this is not fun. Whatever it is, it's clunky as hell. So, yeah.
After this, the Black Isle studio closes. Publisher Interplay closes. Troika closes. Everyone closes. It's the end of the golden age of PC role-playing games. The IP is in limbo until Bethesda buys it up and releases Fallout 3 in 2008, turning the franchise into a 3D shooter. Old-time Fallout fans disparagingly call it Oblivion with guns. But it doesn't matter. The idea of a 3D first-person Fallout game is a huge hit, and the game goes on to be a massive blockbuster and a critical darling.
Yeah, I think anyone would have bought the franchise and made it 3D, and I think that would have sold very well. There wasn't too much in the way of innovation for the story or the gameplay outside of it being in 3D. I think the modding or the weapon mods, like building your own, what was it, the train gun? I can't remember what it was called. But you shot spikes and would impale people on the wall. Like, that was cool. Like, oh, you could do stuff like that. Would make it cool. toot sound effect of the train horn. So that was, little things like that was like, it's kind of cool. Not too memorable, but still kind of cool.
Old Fallout me are sore about it, but it doesn't matter because we're hopelessly outnumbered by the new fans. Bethesda literally doesn't need us. A funny thing happened while all of this was going on. Those folks from Black Isle went on to start their own studio, which they called Obsidian Entertainment. They are arguably the original creators of the franchise, or at least some of them. So Bethesda loans them the license, and in 2010, Obsidian releases Fallout New Vegas. Then in 2015, Bethesda returns with Fallout 4. Then in 2018, they gave us Fallout 76, and you know what? We don't have time to talk about Fallout 76. Nobody does. Let's just move on. So that's the history of the franchise. The problem here is that I really want to bash Bethesda for misunderstanding the series, but from experience, I know the first thing people will say when I start complaining is that many of these complaints were things that were also done by Black Isle/Obsidian, and who am I to disagree with the creators? For the record, I'm not crazy about some of the creative decisions they made in Fallout 2, and while I liked New Vegas, I'm not going to pretend it was a perfect game. Yes, some of my criticism can be applied to the non-Bethesda games, but I'm not going to make a big spreadsheet of creative sins and work out which studios or creative individuals should be blamed. Bethesda owns the property, they're in charge of ensuring quality, brand recognition, and maintaining the tone and lore of the franchise. We can haggle over where the bad ideas came from, but ultimately blame has to land in the lap of publisher and rights holder Bethesda. Okay? Okay, let's commence with the bitching and moaning. My first gripe is that Fallout is not about the 1950s. In Bethesda's games, the idea seems to be that Fallout takes place in a world where the bombs fell in the 1950s. Or rather, in a world where the culture of the 1950s lasted an extra 120 years, and even endured through the apocalypse. That's actually a really backwards way of thinking about it. The first Fallout game was actually a really clever example of retrofuturism. To explain what I'm talking about, take a look at these images. These are concept drawings made by artists in 1899, speculating on what the world of 2000 would look like. The time difference between these artists and the world they were imagining is almost as extreme as the difference between the 1950s and the day the bombs fell on the world of Fallout. As silly as they look now, to the people at the tail end of the Victorian period, these images of the year 2000 really did look like the future. In 1979, when people saw the Buck Rogers television show, they saw the future. When we look at that same show today, we see 1979. When we see Blade Runner 2049, we see the future. When the people of 2049 watch that same movie, they'll see 2017. Getting back to those images of the year 2000. Imagine if someone drew those pictures today. In fact, imagine if we made a game out of those images. A world where law enforcement chases down smugglers with helicopter backpacks, and city blocks migrate around with the help of massive steam engines while the mail is delivered by postmen zooming around on bird-like flying machines. If we made that game here in the world of 2020, then it would be an example of retrofuturism, or remembering the future of the past. And that's what the world of Fallout is. It's not the 1950s, it's the year 2077 as the people of the 1950s would have imagined it. But wait, it's actually more complicated than that. It's actually the world of 2077 as the people of 1997 imagined the people of 1950 would have imagined it. Actually, it's even more subtle. It's that world, but then that world was nuked into rubble and spent 84 years trying to claw its way back towards civilization. The world of 2077 was a vacuum tube-powered extrapolation of the future, and that world was obliterated by nuclear holocaust. The opening of the first game drives this point home. We start out watching advertisements for the products of 2077 on a black and white television, but then the camera pulls back and we can see that the old world is ruined. The bombs fell on this chrome-plated retro future, and the world of Mad Max emerged from the rubble. The shocking contrast between these two cultures is core to the feel of the world.
Yeah, that kind of reminds me of this episode of the original Star Trek where they see this world that was influenced by some other guy, and they have these they're selling like cars on their own television broadcasts. And it's always been that way when you zoom out of Fallout 3 from the I think it's a bus they're in, and the old music's playing, and then the hellscape is all outside. Like, it's all this idea that we're trying to have this world, it gets obliterated, and then you have to survive in this crazy hellscape. And the concept of having the 50s was a mentality. It wasn't a style. It wasn't like, even with New Vegas, like it's ironic that they use what they found. So everyone's like greasers, or they're trying to emulate the Kings because there happened to be an impersonation school that did not get destroyed by the bombs. So everyone's like, okay, we have all these pieces of equipment, or we have all these uniforms. Let's make something out of it because we have nothing else to work with. And there's some teaching lessons on how. I guess there were some teaching lessons. I don't even know if this was a thing back in the 50s that they taught how to act like Elvis. Like, that's kind of goofy. So that is interesting that setting would have things that survived and people used it for whatever purpose. With Fallout 4, there's not much to go with aside from this is the world of Fallout, and we're trying to make everything retro-like with all these bended or robust-looking buildings. Like gas stations are much more colorful for some reason. Like the whole world is much more colorful in Boston for some reason, which it should.
And also in Fallout 4, you're playing a character who was there before the bombs dropped, so they knew the world. They knew that world, and then suddenly, they're frozen and teleported like 200 years into the future where everything's destroyed. And I kind of wish they played up on that a little bit more. Like they're going to like different locations, and you would think like the character would like remember these places better. Like, oh, I used to eat there. I met my wife over there. Stuff like that. They don't do that.
Yeah, I also wanted, because we had a voiced protagonist, that there would be more drama with the voice actors. Like, this is your direction. You're looking for your son. You're on a breadcrumb trail. There should be stuff for you to like. Hey, this reminds me of when my son was with. It's like something along the lines of I don't know, not necessarily moving the plot forward, but just like some reminiscing of. There's pieces along the story or pieces in the physical world that you're picking up that could relate to your family in some capacity, or even a nostalgic thing of like a teddy bear or something along those lines. Yeah, you go back to your old home and there's that, but that's it. It's just your old blown up home, and Mr. Handy's there and he's like, hey, master, blah, blah, blah. You're like, okay, great. I was hoping for that sort of Planescape Torment where you're walking everywhere and there's pieces of you throughout time that just happens to be scattered around. I was hoping for something like that because it was such a big world, and I'm glad that they had the kind of the reverse story of Fallout 3, where instead of looking for your dad, you're looking for your son. That was kind of a cool thing, but it never really... It only went somewhere when you find him, and then it's like, oh, this is the choice I have, and that's it. There's nothing much to it. So I wanted there to be a lot more depth to the railroad, to the center. Was it not the center? What was it called? The whatever the team, the synth factory people that the son was part of.
The Institute.
The Institute. Thank you. Yeah, I wanted there to be more to it than that. Like with Fallout 3, you got like Tenpenny Tower, and that sort of like classic choice of what do you do with the bomb. That's a good moral thing, and it might be something a bunch of rich pricks in the future would do, as goofy as that is. So there's stuff in the Fallout stuff that Bethesda made that makes sense, and there's stuff that it was just such a missed opportunity for the sake of let's have a big open world and not spend too much time on one thing.
I would argue that the main kind of issue with Bethesda and their understanding of Fallout is that they always create a stagnant world. It's basically nothing is being rebuilt, and the kind of humanity is not moving.
Yeah, that's part of it.
In any way,
the static nature of all the assets. Like, look at the some of the quest structures of New Vegas compared to Fallout 4. In Fallout 4, most of the stuff is like there's a thing over there, we got to go kill it or get something and return it to whatever person who wants it, and that's pretty much it. Like, there's really no negotiation. There's not too much variation on the endings of those quests. Like, look at I remember the Dr. Keeley quest in New Vegas, where you have to go to Vault 22, I think it was. And Vault 22 is this overgrown vault with all the plants, all the plant life. It's mutated everything, and the obviously the NCR wants you to go find the serum to bring back food and increase production. But there's a doctor there, and she's a ghoul, and you can lie to her about the data. You can destroy the data. show her the data, you can kill her. Like there's all these options to solve that, or you just forget about her. And like that's great. And of course there's ways to solve that quest line. You have to have like a time bomb, you have a grenade, you can use C4 with a detonator, you do all kinds of things to solve that solution of the blowing up the pipes in the gas in the hallway. So that's like they didn't have to go through that level of detail. It just could have been a bomb or a button you press, and then the parts of the vault blows up, and it's like quest is over. No, they wanted you to actually use your tools. So I thought that was simple, all within I think it was the Gamebryo engine or the Embryo engine that allowed that to happen. And you don't get that in New Vegas, or so you don't get that in Fallout 4 or Fallout 3. It's just sort of go here, kill that, get the thing, and find a part for your armor or your gun or your. It's very samey. I find it very much the same every quest line, fortunately.
You roam all over the place in Fallout 1, and you meet a lot of strange people, but nowhere in that voyage do you meet comical throwbacks to the old world. You don't meet any greaser gangs. You don't meet any old-timey Prohibition-era gangsters with Tommy guns. There's no pinstripe suits, no Letterman jackets, no horn-rimmed glasses, no pompadour haircuts, no baseball players, no sundresses, no neckties, no newsies, and not a single gumshoe. There aren't any wacky DJs playing 200-year-old doo-wop songs. The game is not subtle about this. The old world is fucking gone. Like, that's the point. But then Bethesda got their hands on the Fallout license, and they somehow thought it was about a 1950s flavored apocalypse? That's multiple layers of wrong. They took the 50s thing way too literally and way too far, and then they brought it into the post-war ruins where it makes absolutely no sense. I don't know if Bethesda did this because they didn't understand the setting, or if they thought it would be funny, which brings me to the next thing Bethesda doesn't understand. The humor. Fallout 1 was a game infused with dark humor, like movies by the Coen brothers. The humor mostly comes from seeing simple misunderstandings or dim-wittedness spiral into shocking danger and violence. Bethesda never really got that, and so their humorous characters are more like wacky goofballs from a Naked Gun movie. Just to drive this point home, I want to contrast two examples that revolve around the use of sports equipment in the post.
I would argue that Naked Gun is better written than what Bethesda is doing with Fallout.
I was going to say, comparing Fallout to Naked Gun is like an insult to Naked Gun.
It's a very specific brand of humor, the Naked Gun series, or the Police Squad series. So it's goofy. They're both goofy, but yeah, I think Naked Gun is a bit more sophisticated with the acting.
Yeah.
In Fallout 4, we meet this guy.
Buy a swatter, the game changer!
He sounds like a baseball player. He's dressed like a baseball player. He's obsessed with his misunderstood version of baseball that he thinks people played before the war. He makes and sells baseball bats. He's goofy and absurd. How can this guy ever sell enough baseball bats to feed himself? He makes no sense. Fallout 4 takes place in Boston. Real-world Bostonians are stereotypically baseball fans, therefore we get this guy. A one-note joke character. A wacky goofball. Contrast that with the way the Legion uses old-world sports equipment in Fallout New Vegas. You can find Legion soldiers running around in football gear, but they're not treated like joke characters.
Well, that's just arguably that could be something else. Like, no one really talks about what the look of leather armor or other armor is in Fallout New Vegas is. Like, they don't say you look like... It's just, yeah, maybe that is football gear. I have no idea. I've never thought about it. So, and this goes into New Vegas because they just use what's found. As we talked about the Kings, just having a bunch of random costumes that people used in impersonations of Elvis they had lying around. So same with the Boomers, same with, I guess you could argue, what was it, the robes found by the ghouls that wanted to go to the moon.
Oh yeah.
Whatever they were called, I can't
remember. I forget the actual name. I know who you're talking about, Smud. The guys that want to launch the rockets, but yeah, and you can mess with the rockets. You can correct their path or whatever. Again, going to what you said, you can change the outcome of that mission.
Yeah, there's variation, and you don't have to do that in game. Like, there's no reason to do that aside from giving the player that extra freedom of choice to say, can I be a dick, or can I fix, actually make their voyage better? And
Yeah,
that's,
and you actually get a reward. You get more like XP,
yeah,
if you improve it.
and that's part of the whole reputation system with every group, every small faction, every piece of karma that you pick up or down. Which, yeah, it wasn't perfect in New Vegas because there's lots of stupid things, like if you steal from the Legion, like you lose karma. I was like, wait, I'm stealing from slavers. Isn't that a good? Like I'm decreasing their resources. Like what? So there's some weird things about that, but it makes sense within the world of, well, they don't like you if you steal from them. It's like, oh, so I'm in the realm of their world and their karmic system, not karma as a whole. So
that's one thing I've never really liked about like these kind of games, where it's like, okay, I'm going to go in and I'm going to steal this one thing. There's nobody else around. I'm by myself. I've locked the door behind me. There's literally nobody looking at me right now. You steal an item and it says, now everybody on this faction hates you.
Yeah.
It's like, but how?
Yeah.
But how do they know?
And it's kind of weird that there are things labeled, because they screwed this up. There's just too many items in, let's say, I can't remember the camp, but it's the camp with all the Ranger Battalion, the Snipe Shooter Battalion. And if you go around camp and look at some of the stuff in the tents, some of it's red and some of it's labeled yellow, so you can take it without the karma decreasing. So I'm like, did they just forget to do that? Did they just get sloppy, or did they get too tired, or they didn't have enough time to make it? Like, you could just go through all the tents and find some ammo crates or this or that you don't lose karma using. So it's kind of weird that they weren't consistent with it. And obviously the game was, took less than 2 years to make, I think. So they were rushing this game out the door, so they obviously skipped a few details. And I think some mods tried to clear that up, but I don't think they did a good job. So it's one of those things that could have had a better clarity on how it works. And I think it's a fine system because it implies that there is a sense of good and evil even in the wasteland where everything's Mad Max. So it's like, I am a good person to these people, and they know it. But how do they know it is the question.
Yeah.
Whatever you might think about the implementation, it's still a way more depth than anything Bethesda does with Fallout.
Oh yeah, no question about it.
Yeah, and the one thing I remember, I can't remember his name. He was from Black Isle, but he also worked on a few other games that he's known for. The one thing they did was, if you do something for some faction, that faction soldier or whatever will come visit you every half hour and say, hey, you're the guy who did the thing. Here's some little thing that you did for us. Bye. And they would just keep doing that. The Kings would do that. The NCR would do that. It would just be like this little thing telling players, hey, yeah, remember that thing you did? Yeah, thanks. Like just a little stupid thing like that has no purpose aside from making the player feel good. And here's some ammo, or here's a stim pack or whatever. Like something as simple as that just reminds, because you probably did that thing like a month ago. You can't even remember. Oh yeah, I've went through H&R or H&H tools, and I got this thing for someone. Oh yeah, whatever. Like the fact that there's a courier running around trying to find you to give you a thing. That's one of the systems they implemented in the game. And I don't know if you remember the standoff with the NCR and the guys who went with Benny to kill you, and they're all just waiting around. Yeah. There's a memorial. If you remember that, there's a memorial right outside that whole section, that sector, that if you shoot, the guy standing next to the memorial will come after you, and he'll run you down. And there's actually a video of a guy saying, how far will this guy chase you in the game, and how far can you avoid him before the end of the game? And you could literally outrun this guy the entire game. And he literally follows you around the map as if he's like a living thing. And you could fast travel to the other end of the map, and you'll have to start again and go back. Like they designed the system so that there's people hunting you down all the time. I thought that was great. Anyway.
They don't see themselves as football players. They don't talk in football idioms or act like a football team. They don't know about old world football, and they don't...
I know, but no one is thinking this. Like, I never thought of that when I saw the Legion. I was like, these guys look crazy. Not the football players. Like, no one... It never even dawned on me that they're football gear wearing people.
I mean, the shoulder pads are kind of obvious, but other than that, they're not wearing like the rest of the football gear.
Well, I was thinking...
helmets.
Yeah, I was...
the uniform.
If you remember Fallout 1 and 2, when you see leather armor, it's just this leather-looking thing, and it's a tiny sprite. You're like, okay, whatever. And they just copied that for Fallout 3 and New Vegas, so you don't even like, register it as football gear. But I guess, yeah, if you're an American and you're really into football, you're like, it kind of looks like football gear. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I recognize the pads, like the shoulder pads. That's about it, but...
Yeah.
Care what they originally used for. They just found some sports equipment and realized it would make for good armor. The humor comes from the absurdity of seeing these harmless and mundane objects adopted unironically by an army of vicious murderers and slave masters. Again, that fits with the theme that the old world died and Mad Max rose out of the ashes. Which brings me to my next problem, which is that Bethesda's world suffers from a horrible case of cultural stagnation. Their entire world is ridiculously stagnant. To show you what I'm talking about, here's some footage of the village Shady Sands in the original Fallout. This is likely the first major location a player will visit. You could see that the inhabitants have built things. They have a well for fresh drinking water and irrigation. They have both crops and livestock. They've built post-war tools. They have beds to sleep in, houses to shelter them from the elements, and they have walls around the city for defense.
This is actually a great example because in the second game, the whole quest is to find the Gek, which created a village or a town like this. And this is the result. It's just walls and irrigation and a bunch of cows. Like, this is it. The holy Gek. It just brings back... If this is civilization, like, wow, this is like pretty primitive. But that's the point. It's not supposed to be this gigantic city with cars and all these things. And then when you watch the was it the Fallout TV show? And they show flashbacks of Shady Sands. It's like this metropolis. You're like, what the hell? They have parks and fountains.
It's vaguely like this. I mean, they showed a little bit more of it in season 2. Like they had Maximus's dad working on a machine that would purify the water, like remove the radiation from it. And he just got it working just as that guy showed up with the bomb.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Even made a latrine. This village doesn't get many visitors. It's on the edge of...
It's a village, but the show makes it like the capital of the NCR. It's just massive. It's a village.
The playable game world, and there's little reason for anyone to pass this way. That makes the community kind of insular, and the inhabitants are naturally guarded. You can look at this place and understand everything you need to know about Shady Sands. This is the society that people had managed to build for themselves in the 80 or so years since the bombs fell. It's a throwback to small pre-industrial village life, with a few pre-war tools and ideas mixed in. You'll notice that the ground isn't piled high with rubble, and the inhabitants aren't ankle deep in garbage. Which makes sense since, people live here. Now let's consider the Drumlin Diner in Fallout 4, which takes place 130 years later. That's 210 years after the bombs fell. The world of Fallout 4 is as far removed from the war as we are from Napoleon. This diner is run by Trudy. She runs it as a sort of general store. She lives out here all by herself. Well, I guess she has a son who owns a Letterman jacket because, again, Bethesda thinks this game is about the 1950s, even though that makes no sense whatsoever. Anyway, her building offers no privacy or protection from the elements. She doesn't have a bed to sleep in. She has no way to obtain food except through trade, which is inexplicable since she shouldn't have any. She produces no goods, and so she shouldn't have anything to offer in trade. The floor is littered with trash. There's a pre-war skeleton in one of the booths. That would make sense if this was an untouched ruin, but this woman lives here. It's been 210 years since the bombs fell, and nobody ever swept the floor or cleaned out the skeleton. There's a broom in the corner of the room that evidently hasn't been touched in 2 centuries. Nobody ever boarded up the windows, built a fence, dug a a latrine, planted a garden, created a path for fetching water from the nearby stream. In the world of Fallout 4, it looks like people crawled out of the rubble after the bombs fell and then spent the next 210 years shooting at each other from behind heaps of rubble and wading through ankle-deep trash everywhere. People have supposedly been living in these places for over 2 centuries, but they look identical to the untouched ruins. This was supposed to be a series about the wild world that emerged from the ashes of nuclear fire, but Bethesda thought the series was about the ashes. The first Fallout was very interested in world building and speculating about the kind of society that might emerge after the apocalypse. When you looked around the world, you could kind of understand how it worked. The problem with Bethesda's world building is that they didn't actually build anything. Bethesda just wants to make rubble-themed shooting galleries.
Yeah, this is an important point because if you ever work with people like designers on level design for video games or video game demos or whatever mod you're doing, they always think in terms of this world needs more stuff. It needs to be more colorful, more messy, more things to interact, not necessarily interact with, just make it look like it's lived in. And that might be true because there's like broken windows and there's like old seats in the diner and all this. It has all this stuff in it. But they didn't think about, wait, why are we doing this? Why are we having this stuff? Like, this is what the mentality of, let's say, I want to make a mod or a level for like Unreal that you could play online, like a shooting gallery. And that's what this feels like. It's not, how do we make this world seem more real or realistic? It's, how do we make it look more colorful and quirky and cool? And that's what the color scheme, the palette, the tiles, everything is so, wow, it looks like there's a lot of detail everywhere. And that's right, because it's a better engine. But it doesn't feel like Fallout. It feels like some weird offshoot, colorful world of Fallout that doesn't match what it should look like. And it's everywhere. It's not just like these two towns. It's like the whole wasteland is colorful.
On top of stagnation within the world, Bethesda's games also suffer from creative stagnation. The first Fallout game took place in Southern California. It featured rad scorpions, death claws, super mutants, and a small cult of technology fetishists called the Brotherhood of Steel. The locals used bottle caps as an ad hoc currency. Then
Nope. They did not have bottle caps in 1 or 2. They had like gold, like the icon was like coins. It was called money. Bottle caps came in Fallout 3, I think.
Yeah.
the second game came out with the same lineup. At the time, I accepted this as a necessity of the short development cycle. The games were exactly a year apart, so I guess some asset reuse was inevitable, and it was understandable within the world. Fallout 2 still took place within California. Scorpions aren't too much of a stretch. Perhaps the Deathclaws and Brotherhood of Steel migrated, and yeah, the events of Fallout 1 kind of killed off the source of super mutants, but maybe there were still some stragglers left over. I saw it as a missed opportunity to do something different, but fine. But then Bethesda got the license. They set the next game over 2,000 miles away in Washington, D.C., and the next one even further away in Boston. Despite this, they brought the same collection of rad scorpions, deathclaws, super mutants, and the Brotherhood of Steel. This makes a lot less sense. I mean, scorpions don't live within 1,000 miles of the Northeast. They even kept the idea of using bottle caps as currency. It would make much more sense, and be way more interesting, if all of the various isolated regions would each come up with different things to use as currency. But Bethesda was just reflexively copying all of the superficial elements without thinking about how the world would work. People usually respond to this criticism by trying to invent explanations for how all of this was possible. Maybe the scorpions migrated. Maybe the changing climate and mutations make it so that scorpions can live this far north. And it's not impossible for the Brotherhood to migrate this far east. Same goes for Deathclaws. And Bethesda created a new way to create super mutants to explain why they're still around. Fine, come up with all the excuses you like. My problem isn't that you can't justify this in the lore, it's that it massively limits the setting. If it's rad scorpions, deathclaws, bottle caps, and Brotherhood on the west coast, and if that same crap exists on the east coast, then it sort of suggests that this stuff is everywhere. Like, this is the whole world. Fallout 1 made it seem like we were just exploring one tiny corner of a vast unknown wasteland. But now Fallout 3 tells us that the wasteland is incredibly homogeneous and predictable.
Yeah, I think if they limited the number of, let's say, a Deathclaw popping up here and there's kind of rare, that would be like, oh, wow, I remember that from the second game or the first game. Like stuff like that while having their own bestiary. That would be a little bit making it more unique, even if all you're doing is shooting them. So you don't want to copy everything, for sure. You want just enough. So the bottle cap thing was actually a Bethesda idea, so that's unique. And New Vegas created, I think, not Nuka-Cola, they created Sunset Sarsaparilla.
Yeah.
And same idea, only I think originally they were also irradiated. I can't remember. Because you drink a Nuka-Cola, you get irradiated.
Yeah.
And Sunset Sarsaparilla, I don't think you do, at least in the mods that I have. So
I played it the other day, and no, you don't get radiation from the Sunset Sarsaparillas.
yeah.
I don't have any mods on New Vegas.
Oh, really? Cool. Okay. Vanilla.
Well, I need some performance ones because it keeps crashing on me.
Oh, yeah, for sure. That's one of the first things I installed. I never got the graphic packs or any of the upgrades to drivers. I was like, I just keep it the same vanilla stuff.
Yeah. Still haven't made it to the end of the game.
Yeah.
Yes, they added Mirelurks and a couple of other new monsters, but we still have the same major elements at the center of the world. I want to stress that this isn't just about giving us new monsters to shoot. This is part of telling a story. You don't just create a quest like, hey, this monster sucks, please go.
Yeah, it works with like the Enclave, which are supposed to be mysterious and behind the scenes. But everything else...
I will say, sorry to cut you off, Smud. I will say one thing Fallout 4 did add was the synths. You know, the Institute, the synths, you know, like robotic enemies that could copy other people. I mean, granted, you know, a lot of the synths you face were, you know, all melted and destroyed looking, and you know, they look like they just stepped out of like the future world from Terminator, you know.
Exactly. Like that's the vibe I got, and that was what I think they were trying to like. We're in this, you know, current Terminator world, and I'm like, oh, that's weird. And then you go meet them, and your son's in charge. You're like, oh, that's weird. It never really felt like this is making sense. Like why are they doing this? How are they? And you see, they just, you know, they see the bodies come in, and it's like standing like a Da Vinci painting. You're like, okay, and they connect them all the dots, and boom, they just spit them out. You're like, wow, this is really efficient. What's the point? Why are they doing this? There was never really a story behind that made sense to me, that I could wrap my brain around. Whereas you have New Vegas, and the whole plot is this platinum chip thing, and why do we need this? Oh, we need to secure New Vegas and make it strong and make it prosper and protect it, and it's part of this whole defense mechanism. And then we have to go take care of all the major powers so they're aligned with us, or we get rid of them. It's like, oh, like this all makes sense. And you could say to hell with that and screw it over and join the Legion, or if you didn't like the Legion, go with the NCR. If you like the NCR, just do your own thing with the S-Man, and that'd be great. Like, you had all this freedom with who you wanted to go with. Not to say you couldn't join the Minutemen or the Institute, or I'm trying to like the Brotherhood and the other factions, but it didn't feel like there was much impact on the world. And you were always helping out what's his face with the settlements. It was just constant settlement building, and we need 5 plants in the settlement, therefore they gotta eat. And you're like, well, can't they do that? Like, what do you? I gotta trek around the entire Boston area to just plant some plants for small, like 2 people. Like, they can't figure that themselves. Like, all this dumb little hokey dokey stuff that was kind of goofy, I never really liked, and it was repetitive a lot. So, yeah.
You introduce a problem, a question, or a mystery, and then you let the player follow the plot points until they discover the answer. And then they shoot the monster. This is the pattern that the first game followed. Super mutants and Deathclaws weren't just creatures to shoot for experience points. The Deathclaw was a red herring in the mystery of what was happening to the trade caravans. The super mutants were one of many clues along the trail to the ultimate villain of the first game. But now these creatures are 200 years old and everyone knows about them. When one of them appears, it isn't a story, it's a cameo. Bethesda should make up new freaks so we can have new stories. In the pilot of Star Trek, the crew has a run-in with these giant forehead aliens called the Talosians. The captain gets himself into trouble, but the crew works it out and everyone makes it back to the ship. They run into the forehead gang a second time a few episodes later and have another adventure, but the Talosians aren't the stars of the show. But imagine if these guys were the whole show. Like, the second episode, they go to a planet and they meet the Foreheadians again. The third episode, they beam down to a new planet and meet more foreheads. Fourth episode, new planet, same old foreheads. To the audience, it would feel like the whole galaxy was just these forehead guys guys everywhere, and we'd be a lot less curious about what we were going to discover on the next away mission. It would be a much less interesting show than the one we got. Back in the Silver Age of comic books, we used to have anthology comics that were short stories of science fiction and fantasy. Maybe these things are still around, I don't know, I haven't been to a comic shop in a long time. Anyway, these books didn't feature the same monsters month after month. Instead, each issue was like a new situation with a new mystery, a new monster, and a new surprise. I wasn't born till 1971, so most of these were a little before my time, but I've read a few. They're actually similar to the Star Trek Planet of the Week approach to storytelling. Show us something new and fun, and maybe a bit scary, and have the protagonist figure out how to deal with it. The original Fallout deliberately referenced these comics in its loading screens. That's the key appeal of crawling out of a vault to discover an untamed wasteland. You have no idea what sort of horrors you're going to find. Or at least you shouldn't. In fact, Bethesda even referenced these anthology comics within Fallout 4. Around the world you can find these comic book covers, and you can collect them to boost your stats. The thing is, these covers are really interesting. Bethesda should have taken the creativity that went into these covers and put it into the game itself. Far too often I found myself saying, yep, looks like it's Deathclaw O'Clock again. It would be a lot more exciting if I found myself saying, wow, what is that thing? I don't know how it works, and I'm not sure I want to pick a fight with it. Since the art assets get remade every time, there's no advantage to creating an endless string of games with ever higher resolution versions of the same damn monsters. Bethesda took the suspense and trepidation of exploring an unknown wasteland and turned it into a theme park of references and callbacks. I'm not mad that they retconned ways for super mutants to exist on the East Coast. I'm disappointed that we're meeting more super mutants instead of something new and different. It's not like the original Fallout used up all the good ideas for post-apocalyptic monsters and cults. There's an endless number of wild stories you could tell with the setup of exiting a vault and discovering a savage wasteland full of mutated creatures. Bethesda found themselves with the keys to this franchise of endless possibility, and they decided to go with a plan that was simultaneously the least interesting and most nonsensical.
I would say they brought some features back, which I did like weapon modding and weapon creation. It wasn't as unique or as goofy, let's say, as Fallout 3 with I can't remember the name of the gun, but it was the spike gun from the train track.
The railway?
The railway, yeah, I love that. Like, you can just make goofy shit from all your junk. Like, that's cool stuff.
I think it comes back in Fallout 4, I think.
Oh, great.
It's been a long time since I played it.
Yeah, there was something about that. Like, I do like the modding, but they didn't have repairing. They didn't have like the whole repairing system in Vegas where you have to actually maintain your weapons and you have to find like similar weapons to use as resources to maintain the gun you really like. So stuff like that, I was like, yeah, you brought it back, but it's not as like, you didn't bring all of it back. You just brought back the stuff that you could put a silencer on this, you could put a scope on that, which is fine.
And it never breaks.
It's just perfect. Everything works. It's the same with the power armor. Like, it's great that power armor is a thing, and they
get damaged on the power armor. It can get damaged. Like, you can, like, if you get attacked enough, it'll just like get blacked out, and then it'll get like knocked off.
Yeah,
and you have to go like retrieve it. I think, if I remember correctly. I don't know.
That seems to be a lot of the focus of the game is power armor. Finding it, finding parts for it, getting the fuel for it. And
getting different variations.
Yeah, like one is good against radiation, one has a lot of carry weight or whatever. Like,
this is the new model, this is the old model, this is the very old model.
Yeah, I see that was an issue with me in New Vegas, because New Vegas was like, it is clothing. Like, you're putting on a whole, like, this is your armor. Whereas in Fallout 4, you have your normal clothing and then you slip into this mech. And it's like, oh, okay, is this a Fallout 4 thing only, or is this what power armor has always been? Something about that was like, why did you retcon power armor? Why don't you just call it something new? Like, just make it a new thing. But they had to make it power armor, so okay.
I don't think, but you can see the changing creative priorities by the titles made by old school development teams. The cover shows a character against a background that represents the setting. In Bethesda's game, it's just power armor. Note also how Bethesda covers are all monochrome, while the old school games have a colorful and contrasting background. The old school games were speculative fiction that focused on world building, while the new games don't give a damn about world building and just want to create a fun playground for shooting shit. I'm not saying that Bethesda games are terrible because they don't have pictures of buildings on the cover. I'm just saying it's interesting how the covers reflect the creative sensibilities of the different teams. So now you're going to ask, why am I complaining about this? Who cares, right? I know I've been dumping all over a couple of really popular games. I want to make it clear that I don't think the Bethesda games are complete trash. In fact, I really enjoyed Fallout 4. You don't play a game...
Whoa. That's a lot.
That's a lot of hours.
Yeah, I don't think I played even 2, 3, not even 3 digits there. Yeah. Whew.
That is how my original Skyrim looks. Not counting the special edition.
Yeah. Ooh.
for over 1,000 hours because you hate it. I think that collecting power armor was a really fun activity. Diamond City doesn't make a lot of sense, but it looks brilliant. The idea of allowing the player to name a weapon, customize it, and upgrade it over time was fantastic. Despite my earlier griping, I think Detective Nick Valentine was a cool character. I loved collecting comics, and that sort of became the main quest for me when I realized the story was drivel. The base building was an underbaked idea at launch, but with a few mods and a bit of DLC, it's actually great. The glowing sea was a little toothless.
Yeah, I think the base building was pretty cool as well, like the power. I like that idea. It just became so annoying that
well, it was pretty good up until you got to, like, I think it was the Nuka World DLC, you know, where you're meeting like bandits and raiders, and then they're like, hey, we want you to be the leader of our rebel or of our raider gang. Now go raid some outposts and encampments. It turns out the ones they want you to raid are yours.
Oh.
The ones you spend time building up. It's like, what the fuck?
Wow, that's weird. Oh my god.
Yeah, it's dumb.
Wow.
In my opinion.
In terms of radiation threat, but visually it was wonderfully ominous. This haunted hellscape felt like an idea that would have been right at home in the old Fallout games. Also, the new Deathclaw design is completely brilliant. So if I like the game so much, why am I complaining? Well, here's the thing. Imagine if the Dark Souls series was sold to a new developer, and imagine they changed the game. Instead of playing as a doomed nobody, you're playing as a chosen one hero. Instead of methodical, punishing combat, the gameplay is fast-paced and empowering. Instead of ending on a melancholy note, the game ends when you triumphantly push back the darkness and return the lands to peace and prosperity. Maybe throw in a love interest, a wacky comedy sidekick, and a few mini-games. Now, none of those ideas are inherently terrible. In fact, this sounds like a pretty standard template for a AAA blockbuster. You could even make the case that a happy, fun version of Dark Souls would sell better than the original because it appeals to more mainstream sensibilities. But no matter how good Happy Souls might be, it would be a bad Souls game because it runs counter to everything the original was designed to accomplish. That's the problem with Bethesda's Fallout games. The original had incredible world building, an interesting story, a streak of clever gallows humor, and a unique tone. Bethesda's Fallout has a lot going for it, but it's missing everything that made the original so special. It's tragic, but this seems to happen a lot. One writer comes along and builds a fascinating and complex world, and then the property gets handed off to a new writer that only has the most superficial understanding of the source material. The new writer can't come up with new stuff that fits with the old, so the franchise spirals into incoherency or self-reference.
That's a pretty good observation of how comic books, video game franchises, TV shows, all that works. You get a new writer in charge, and they're like, "Oh, I'm going to do this with it." It's like, "Uh-oh." Which was great.
I can do it better.
Yeah, which was when you think about the Bible in Star Trek with the creator, how strict he was with TNG until he died, and I think it was season 3, and then the writers were like, "I know, we can do whatever we want reasonably," and the show got better in its own way. But they would have to also discipline themselves, still using the Bible in some capacity. They just had more freedom because they weren't being looked upon by the creator.
It's effect. It happened to Game of Thrones. It happened to Deus Ex. It happened to Dragon Age. And it happened to Fallout. At any rate, I'm really sad that Fallout has become the Brotherhood versus Super Mutants comedy hour, and I'm even more sad that developers and publishers don't value writing the way they used to. Bethesda could be making games that are just as fun to play, but are also more interesting to inhabit and think about. Or maybe they can't. Either way, it bugs me and I wish they'd do better.
All right. Yeah, I remember watching this years ago. It was a great video, and the observations he made about that diner were the same thoughts that were running through my head, saying, why is there a skeleton in the booth that the place you work at? This is your... Why would you have that there? Yeah. But stuff like the factions, the voice acting, while I liked that, they also got rid of the dialogue. They turned it into a dialogue wheel. So everything was a lot simpler. And it didn't really work without the karma system. Like you wanted to have the good and evil. They didn't have that. I think they removed the weapon armor system for repairing, which I liked from New Vegas, because you just have stuff and then you get that perk that allows you to like use other stuff to repair certain gear. That was kind of useful. But the settlement system, as good as it was just constant. Like the game just falls into that. Like, another settlement needs your help. It's like, really? Another one? There's like 20 of them out there, and I'm the only one in charge of them. What's going on? So
I feel like the biggest problem of Fallout 4 is basically the fact that you are never allowed your own decisions. So you speak to someone, you say no, nope, and then you still get the quest.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's notorious. It's everything basically is railroaded into a single thing. I think someone make a graph about this, how the dialogue wheel and everything works, and it's horrid.
Oh. All right. Well, we got some memes going. There's only a few. I don't know who this is from, or where this is from, rather. I am Todd Howard. I am Fallout. It dies with me. You know, ever since he started talking about the TV show.
That's actually from season 2, Smud. So I forgot to tell you about this. So in episode 8, Macaulay Culkin, the episode opens with episode 8. I mean, the Legion still fighting each other. Macaulay Culkin drags the body of Caesar or Kaiser into the tent, and he finally pulls the note out of his pocket that's supposed to be the name of the successor. And he opens it up, and it says, "I am Caesar. The Legion is me. The Legion dies with me."
Really?
And Macaulay Culkin's like, "Yeah, fuck that. I'm taking over." He eats the note, and the guy that's in the room, he's like, "What does the note say?" Macaulay Culkin immediately kills them.
Oh.
Because he's like the only witness.
Oh dear.
And then he puts the golden leaves, that Caesar has on his head. He puts them on his own head, and he walks outside and he says, "Hey, we're marching in New Vegas. I'm taking over."
Really? Wonderful.
And they're like, "Okay."
How Nate the Rake's
yeah,
going to be moving once he learns there's a Canadian left in the wasteland? Nate the Rake.
I've heard of that name. I don't know.
I think Nate is the guy that is main character of the Fallout 4.
Yeah,
I think that's right. Like, unless you give him a different name.
Yeah, I think it's the main character of Fallout 4, and either Todd or Emil decided that this is the guy from Fallout 1 that shoots an unarmed civilian.
Really?
Oh, in the opening?
Yes.
Really? I didn't know about that.
Yep.
Weird.
Yeah.
Okay then. I heard that, but I didn't really connect the dots. Anyway, great video, a classic. Someone had to make it, saying that when we look at, or the guys from Obsidian, like, we look at New Vegas is their version of Fallout 3, their way, made better, I would say. The way they, like with Chris Avallone and Josh Sawyer and all those other guys, the same way they treated KOTOR. They saw KOTOR, they went, "Wow, we like KOTOR, let's do our own version of that." And they did a great job. So I think that's what Obsidian is good at. They look at something and they go, "Okay, that's a pretty good series, that's a pretty good thing, let us make it better." And
yeah, and they didn't trample on what came before either.
Exactly. You could argue
it existed in the same universe, in the same world.
Yeah, they did their own thing, and they moved it, like, even with New Vegas, it's not too far away from California and what happened in Fallout 1 and 2. So everything's pretty much the same. But plus they helped make 1 and 2. So they knew what they were doing. With KOTOR, they wanted to, like, fill in the blanks of what the problems are with Star Wars, and they worked with the setting of KOTOR 1, and they did a good job. But again, same with all their games. They rush them out the door, and they're not finished, and there's buggy as hell. But,
Yeah.
that's how it goes. Anyway, great video. I thought we weren't going to cover it because it was such a video we agree on. There's not much arguments here. So, but yeah, Shamus Young has always had a sharp mind. I remember he covered me when I first did my videos on YouTube, and I talked to him and we shared emails, and he was a great guy. And his community is really cool. His forum is great. The comment sections are fantastic. And I'm sure they bleed into YouTube here and there. But I really miss Shamus and his insight into media, not just video games, but just media in general. And he was a really great hardcore RPG tabletop player. So nice to have his input, or used to really be great. Anyway, guys, I am freezing, and it's just going to get colder here in Ontario. So I'm going to go downstairs and get some hot chocolate or something. But you guys take it easy. I will talk to you soon. Have yourself a great evening and a wonderful weekend. Good night.
Have a good night.
Bye.